Contact number for Inspire FM is 07779481822. You can leave back suggestions for further shows. It'd be a pleasure. Parenting show. We do like to keep it as what can I say, as leveled as we can from a parent perspective, and not make it an elevated show in the sense of professionals speaking down to parents out there. So inshallah, anybody out there doesn't need a qualification of any form in counseling and coaching, in parenting philosophies, just feel free to contact us and make those suggestions. It's a show for the parents, and the parents should feel free to contribute as they need, inshallah. So without any further delay, I'd like to say that inshallah, there are a few problems on Facebook at the moment in terms of accessing the show live. However, we do have our website available, and the show should also be available on YouTube. You can listen back to it. You can listen to it live right now on Inspire FM parenting show on the YouTube link as well. And feel free to share the link and to leave any feedback and suggestions. And don't forget to like the show as well, inshallah. So without any further delay, Musarat and Rani, coming to today's topic. It's an interesting topic. It's a different topic. Hopefully the concept actually isn't new, isn't challenging, but sometimes it can just be titles that can throw you off guard a little bit, or make you think that this is something different. Something I came across in an article that you shared, Musarat, in our group, Nunchi, a Korean concept, which loosely translates as the fine eye for detail, observation, estimation, measuring up with the eye. So this is a concept of developing this fine eye to detail, which the Koreans say should begin from the primary age of 3 and continue from there onwards. If you read about it, it's a concept that was maybe developed in the 17th century within the Korean society. As we unravel this concept, we'll see what the Islamic perspective and connections and thoughts are, like we always do, inshallah. I take it from there. But Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This idea of Nunchi, I'm going to come to you first, Masara, today. Usually I just leave it open, as it's a topic that you shared with us. How did you come across this, and what were your first thoughts when you came across this idea?
A good friend of mine, she shared this article with me about Nunchi, the Korean parenting concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it really interesting, so I thought I'll share with everyone. And it's not very new. I feel just the terminology is different, but it's something which needs to be discussed. I feel, and it has like a wide range of characteristics and many elements to it, which we can discuss, inshallah.
Yeah. So when you read about Nunchi, firstly, in terms of definitions, what did it mean to you? What does it actually mean? If you can just share that maybe with the listeners.
It translates as an eye measure for things, like basically being aware of your surroundings in different circumstances, like before speaking, answering back, or basically being like having an estimation of things in terms of life skills and what to say, what not to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just coming to yourself, Ronnie. The topic, when I said, okay, let's do this one, and do some prep for it. Had you ever heard of this concept before? And when you read about it, second question, did you think, oh my God, this is news to me? Or was it something that you thought, oh my God, yeah, of course, I should be doing that?
Well, the name Nunchi obviously is a new terminology for me. I've never heard of it before, but the article itself was very interesting, and I was intrigued. But once I started reading it and, what it was all about, I realized that it's something that we should be doing. And it is, how do you say it? What's the word? It's something that we do, but we don't realize what it is. And obviously, this article's given it a name as Nunchi. But as Muslims, we have part of our faith to, observe the situation and not, react. Like we react really quickly to a certain issue, a certain, situation. But what I've gathered from the article is that what Nunchi is, you think about the situation you're in. Maybe, I don't know, there's an issue and there's people talking, and you're part of that conversation, but you don't just jump in and you don't react quickly. You just watch what other people are saying, watch their behavior, their body language, and then you think about it, and then you respond accordingly and appropriately. That's what I gathered from it, and I think it's something that we should be doing anyway. And maybe we do it, but we don't realize that we are doing it. So maybe the term was new, but I think the concept, it's not new. Like Musab said, it's not a new concept. It's just something that we don't really discuss as parents or as adults or with our children or whatever. Specifically.
Okay, I'm going to come back to this question of, do you think we do it enough? Do you think we do adopt this concept of, you described it so well, having that persona of calmness and listening and being attentive and observing closely and patiently, and then responding, to the given scenario situation. But before we come to that, just my definition, of Nunchi, this idea it's a Korean concept, and it specifically signifies the subtle art. So you should be able to be subtle, not obvious. It's not obvious that you're observing, you're watching. You shouldn't be standing out. You know how sometimes people stand out as, God, she never contributes, but she always just sits there and listens to everybody else and what they have to say. So the art of Nunchi is subtle. So it's a subtle art and ability to listen to a collective gathering. So it's actually something that is referring to, it's definitely something that can be applied to individual meetings and settings, but it's more about a collective setting. So in a gathering, the ability to listen, engage others, their mood, the atmosphere, the environment, what kind of a setting is it? What kind of conversations are going to be appropriate? What kind of conversations are taking place? How are people feeling about these conversations or actions or behaviors? So it's having a subtle eye to detail, where you're not actually standing out, but you're actually part of the discussion at the same time as well. So you're not sat silently in the corner as an observer. You're not doing research, but you're part of the conversation. You're involved, but at the same time, you have this ability to do this. So it requires a bit of multitasking as well, because in a gathering, to be able to sense the feeling at large in general, to be able to recognize individual feelings or opinions, and then to be able to respond and articulate yourself well. I think there's a lot of little skills there that are coming together to be able to form this in that manner. And so therefore it's the art of sensing what others are thinking collectively or feeling, and then responding appropriately. It's the ability to read a room quickly, and is generally applied to a collective environment and not to specific or individual environments. And that's really interesting, I found, in that manner and in that way. The whole process is assessment. And you guys are, bang on that. When I started looking at this title, it was like, oh, what's this? Let's see what the Koreans have found. And then as I read it, I thought, hang on a second, we're jumping the queue a bit here in our discussion on the show, but isn't this exactly what Muhammad Sallallahu encouraged us to do? Isn't this exactly how he encouraged us, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam encouraged us to be? Whether it's the way we dress within the ihkam and the realms of Islam, or the way we hold our conversations within the limited boundaries of Islam. Should we not be prepared before we enter into a gathering? When we get there, should we not be prepared for any differences or any unexpected circumstances or any individual isolations of people and their thoughts and their opinions and their views or their feelings? And, did he sallallahu not demonstrate to us his quick and sharp and witty way of responding to these things as well? So is this actually something new for me? And then my question, do you think we do it enough, considering it's something that does tie in with Islam? It's not something away from Islam. When you guys read this article or came across this concept, honestly speaking, because some of us might apply it in our families, or we might have taught our children this, or we might be doing it ourselves, but not really had a conversation or taught our families. So where do you guys stand on this? Go on, Naveed.
As a parent to children of different ages, what I have observed is, some kids are God gifted with it, like, especially the younger ones. They observe their older siblings and they get a lot of practice done as well, dealing with their older siblings. While the older ones don't get as much compared to the younger ones. So, they might be lacking in it. And some might be average. So basically, as parents, we need to, first assess like what my child is like and then work on it. Like, even help them in situations like if you're standing in a queue and they're being impatient, we need to tell them like, everyone's waiting. We also need to wait. Things like that, which will make them realize that, they're not the center of attention all the time and they have to deal with such situations. So slowly, with time, they will develop the patience and how to react in such situations.
Yeah. Do you think you were already teaching these skills in your family, or do you think you weren't quite teaching? Maybe you were teaching bits of it, but not all of it. Did it enlighten you? Did you feel a connection? I think, oh my God, I don't think I'm actually consciously doing this, or oh my God, this is news to me, or actually, oh my God, it's from Islam and I didn't even realize. Where did you stand in terms of because like you said, you've got a variety of ages, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, you're a big family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you all health. So when you've got a variety from adults, 17, 18-year-olds, all the way down to a 3-year-old, is it something that you've just caught on to now, thinking, oh, I better focus on this with my kids now? Or was it something that you think subconsciously you were already applying?
I think I didn't practice it much with my older ones, because I think I wasn't much aware that time. But now I see I do, use situations to make them understand things. More when they make mistake, but also positively, like when they have done something good, like, yes, you were right. You gave a very good answer. You were, right there or wrong there. Both ways. Could be either way.
Yeah, absolutely. What about yourself, Ronnie? Where are you on this?
Well, I agree with Masarat in all of it that, with everybody's different and everybody has their own different skills and different levels. I didn't really think of this as a concept where, I had to teach the children or sit down and say, this is what you should be doing or whatever. But as, I realised that as the different generations, the younger generations, they tend to stay in isolation. They don't really sit in gatherings. In my generation, we used to sit with our parents, regardless of our parents never told us to, go in a different room when they had a gathering and they were talking, I don't know, politics or certain issues are happening in the family, or even if we went to, say, a wedding, they took us with them. So we would go to weddings, we would go to funerals with our parents, so we were sitting around in that environment. And now I've noticed that we don't do that with our children. We leave them at home. They don't need to be in this discussion. They don't need to know about what's happening, I don't know, in the society or happening in a family issue or whatever. And we've turned them into people that are not interested, and they don't have those communication skills where, they don't realize what's happening, and how to read people and how to read situations. And we have to instill it in them. So yes, I have had a couple of conversations with my children that you need to have your eyes and ears open, not knowing that this is what I'm doing, this Nunchi thing. But that when you're in, I don't know, a gathering, you shouldn't just be, too busy in your own little corner. Be aware of what's happening around and other conversations, and because it's an open environment, it's not as if anybody's hiding anything. So keep your eyes and ears open, and see what's happening and what people are saying and doing and the behavior of people. And that's how you learn, and that's how you get wise of the world, and your communication skills are excelled, and you're better aware of what's happening around you and how to react, or how to not react, how to respond to certain situations when it happens. Say maybe an issue's happened which is similar to an issue that you were sitting in before, and then you know how to respond and how people will react to you answering or responding.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very true. And what's interesting is, for example, from an Islamic perspective, Muhammad Sallallahu taught us to play with our youngs from a young age, play with our children from a young age, and playfully teach them. And even when you look to this Korean concept, it talks about the fact that how you start teaching this from the age of 3 onwards. So it is the small gestures first, and it is teaching them small things like what Musarat was just talking about there. That if you have a young child at the age of 5 or 4, losing their patience because they're starving, they're hungry, they're in a long queue, their legs are aching, they don't want to be here, they're too tired. That they are not young enough to try to begin to understand and connect with the fact that, well, we're not the only ones standing here. Firstly, all of our little family, or how many ever of us are in that queue or waiting, are there, and we are all tired, and we are all hungry, or all of our legs are aching. And also look at the people in front of us. They've been standing here as well. So we have to be patient, and we have to wait for our turn. And what this concept is basically saying is that we have to teach about the consequences, like you guys are saying. And what this Korean concept basically teaches us is that to say I didn't intend to hurt that person, I did it unintentionally, is worse than the person who did it intentionally, because you weren't thinking. You didn't even realize that this was going to be the consequence of your behavior or your speech, and you caused offense or hurt or disrespect or whatever. So therefore, the one that deliberately did it might have been a nastier person, but they had their head screwed on, they were thinking. And so what the Korean concept is saying, and the way that they teach their children, is that it's better to have made a mistake but had already planned to do this, not knowing the result was going to be wrong, or knowing that somebody was nasty or evil, or that they can change their way and improve their way, than saying, I didn't mean to do that, which means that you had no thought process, which means that you entered into an environment without thinking, without knowing, and without thinking about the kind of people that you were going to be involved in. And once you've got there, you're in the deep end, you're out of your depth, you have no confidence, and you don't know how to behave, how to articulate a conversation or a discussion, and you're uncomfortable, and the anxiety is kicking in, and you're feeling restless, and you just want to leave that situation, and you never want to go back to one of those gatherings again. And it's because we've never taught our children either about consequences or how to behave and conduct yourself in that reality. So that I didn't mean to offend, hurt, or upset line and situation is eliminated or reduced. And it's not just about me. It's not just about you, but it's about all of us that are here. Something I can relate back to loosely here, maybe is, when first time we've been to a death, and we may have been very young, or in some cultures, Asian cultures, you don't officially attend deaths until you're married, because you're not an individual entity, like you're saying, Ronnie. We don't take our children to certain gatherings. So unless it's a close death, relatives' death, or communities, in the community, if somebody passes away, we don't take our youth. And then all of a sudden, this young lady or young man who has now just got married, and next week there's a death, all of a sudden they're supposed to have the PhD in how to handle this situation in a collective environment. And then they're told off by their parents. It's so embarrassing. Or their in-laws, newly married girl, oh my gosh, she didn't even pay her respects properly, and she didn't even sit properly, and you should have seen the way he was behaving and the conversations. And it's like, well, nobody actually taught us how to conduct ourselves in this environment. I had no previous information or knowledge about how to behave, or I hadn't thought about this. Because another element, especially for us in the Western society, is that we don't really produce thinking. We're not encouraged to think. Don't think about what's happening in the world. Don't think about what conversation you're going to be having when you're at that wedding, or are surrounded by elderly people, or surrounded by kids. And therefore, we're out of our depth, and we don't know how to behave, and we don't know how to conduct ourselves. And then what we choose to do is not go there, because no one's taught us. Nobody's maybe had these conversations with us. Or if they have out there, for the guardians or the parents who are thinking, no, I have, we've got this attitude in the Western world of, can't be bothered. It's not my problem. Yeah, it's not for me. Yeah. So therefore, we've shut down on the thinking before we've even begun. And that can't develop this level of thinking, and it can't produce this. So this idea, and the reason why I'm rambling on now, Rani and Masarrat, is because we're literally going to be going into a break in about 40 seconds. So I'm going to come to you guys on this after the break, inshallah, about how do we develop this within our children. There's the responses, there's the, making them aware, look, hear, see the reality surrounding us. But then how do we nurture that? And the point that you raised, Masarrat, about some are good at this and some aren't so good. There's the element of nature and nurture. Some might naturally just have this, quality within them, whereas others need it developing. Can it be developed? And how do we do that if it can? So these are the important questions that we'll come back to, inshallah, straight after the break. So out there to the listeners, we'll be back straight after. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Hi, I'm Saleha. I'm founder of Street Hands. I was on Inspire FM today, which I think is a great platform for people to raise awareness of really good issues. So well done to Shamiza and her team. I just want to leave a message with you guys. Spread kindness wherever you are, and just always try to be good people.
Established since 1990, Lee Grave Heating Supplies is the largest independent plumbers merchant in the area. And we're the specialist for all types of plumbing and heating, as well as combination boilers and mega flow cylinders. Lee Grave Heating Supplies is your first choice for your new bathroom or complete heating system. Visit our showroom at Shoreland Lane, Luton to see our latest range of quality bathrooms. Or log on to lhsdirect.co.uk. We're stockists of genuine Baxi spares, and we have a showroom in Bedford too. Lee Grave Heating Supplies. Call Luton 84 86 88.
आजकल आपके दरवाजे पर मुख्तलिफ चीजें फरोख्त करने के बहाने और मुख्तलिफ कंपनियों का नाम इस्तेमाल करके चोर आपके घर के अंदर दाखिल होने की कोशिश करते हैं। इसलिए होशियार रहें और दरवाजा खोलने से पहले इस बात की तसल्ली कर लें कि दस्तक देने वाले से आप और आपका घर महफूज है। इंस्पायर एफएम कम्युनिटी अवेयरनेस मैसेज।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أد الأمانة إلى من ائتمنك ولا تخن من خانك. That you should fulfill the trust of the one who entrusts you and do not betray the one who betrays you.
Salam, this is Prince Abdi, and keep listening to Inspire FM 105.1. I'm Prince Abdi at Prince Abdi. Follow me, follow Inspire FM. Peace and love.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, was informed about a woman who was known for her devotion to prayer, fasting and charity. However, she used to insult her neighbors with offensive comments. He dubbed her an inmate of hell. On the other hand, he branded another woman a dweller of paradise, who was kind to her neighbors, although she did not perform any extra prayers.
My call. We always want to know how to look after our health or the health and well-being of our loved ones. We always like to know what are the best exercise to adopt, or we want to know how to access certain health services. We address these and many similar health-related queries and advice in the Health and Fitness Show with me, Fahad Mateen, on every Thursday at 6 p.m.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7:30.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the second half of the parenting show today live on Inspire 105.1 FM. Your host is myself, Sister Naveed. And joining me for today's show are Sister Sarat and Sister Rani. The topic we've just been discussing is Nunchi, a Korean concept, which is defined as the fine eye for detail. And this is the discussion that we've just been having in the first half of the radio show. Out there for the listeners, any questions, any comments, any feedback, feel free to give it to us on 0779481822. You can follow the show or you can listen back to the show or share the show via YouTube or our Inspire FM website. So coming back to you guys, I put a question to yourselves just before the show. Inshallah, you can jump right back into it. Whoever would like to take the lead on
that. Alhamdulillah, like with anything else, we have to train ourselves. So this concept of Nunchi is something that we can develop in ourselves, and then obviously teach our children, and they can develop that as well within them, because we have to be aware of how each one of us deals with people. That's what basically this Nunchi concept is, isn't it? And that we are in our dealings, the way in our actions or maybe our words, we are not violating other people's rights, and we're giving them the respect, and that's something we can sit down and reflect ourselves, because we know that as Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that all actions that we do, there's a consequence to it, isn't it? And we will be accountable for everything that we do, good or bad, whether it's with our tongues or whether it's with our physical, way we behave, we're going to be questioned. So if we instill it in ourselves and, reflect in our behavior, and then we can teach it to our children as well, because like I said before, that we're not just individuals living in, one little, in Himalayas, for example. We live in a society, we live in a community, we interact with each other, and we need to know how to interact, how to communicate in a gathering, and we need to teach ourselves as well. And it's not just about, I'm perfect, because we make mistakes as well. We might have reacted really badly in a certain group, gathering, and then afterwards you think, oh my God, I've offended somebody, and you feel awful, and you think, I didn't intend to do it, like you said, the Nunchi article saying, and so to not repeat that mistake,
not to offend.
You need to learn how not to offend and how not to react in a certain situation. You need to teach others as well, and teach your children.
One of the things that came out to me, and once again, the parallels in our Sunnah and our Deen, the fact that all you need is eyes, ears, and a quiet mind. And we're always taught by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to think, to question, to look, to stop, to pause, to have that quiet mind, to ponder, and contemplate. And all of this is really important. And then the practicing process, like you're saying, Ron, the fact that we practice and then we make mistakes and then we correct ourselves, we don't lose that confidence, but the repetitiveness of it actually allows us to build that confidence, and to learn from our mistakes. So what it is saying is that it's okay to make mistakes as you're from the tender age of 3 and 7 and 9. And then when you reach adulthood and young adulthood, you would have developed the skills of not offending people, to reading environments very well, to walking into environments and not feeling out of place and having that confidence. You could be the only brown person there, you could be the only hijabi there, the only Muslim there, and you hold yourself with confidence and dignity, and at the same time you are aware of other people's feelings. And the whole aspect of reading words that people are saying, as well as their gestures and as well as their facial expressions of a room full of people. And these are the elements that, once again, our Deen talks about, about being aware of other people's feelings, being aware of their reality and their circumstances, and understanding this. So all of this assessment and analysis process, as I call it, is something that our Deen has already taught us. And what we're trying to develop in our youth and in our children and in ourselves is the presence, not just physical presence of being in a gathering, but actually being there mentally and emotionally, and being aware of what's happening around you, so you can be a part of that situation in the appropriate manner. You're going mentally prepared to the best of your ability, and when you get there, even if you get it a little bit wrong, you can still plug into that environment and you can size up that overall event, function, gathering, and you know what role you're going to play within that and why you're there in the first place. So it requires a lot of thinking, and our Deen constantly teaches us to think and nurture our mental well-being and our emotional balance, and to constantly think and be at places completely, holistically, to gain the highest level of reward. So it's really interesting when you read about that. And the other point, before I come to you, Musarat, it's saying that speed is paramount, which is true. So as even a dawah carrier, in the community where I've been carrying dawah for the last 25 years, and so maybe have you guys, and those parents out there, guardians out there listening, or anybody listening out there, speed becomes effective the more you do it. At the beginning, you're quite rusty, you're quite slow in your assessment, analysis, because you're doing so many things. You're looking at what people are saying, what people are feeling, what people mean, what the facial expressions are, what is this gathering about? How are they receiving me? Therefore, how should I now tweak myself, adjust myself to actually belong, or to actually not belong as in a needy way, but to actually contribute to this effectively, to this gathering. And all of that speed, and the speed being paramount, falls into place naturally by the fact that we don't steer away from it, but we continue to go. But you have to nurture thinking in the young minds from a very, very young age, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnah teaches us. And now this concept that we've come across, is basically agreeing with, really, in essence. So yeah, Musarat, is there anything that you wanted to add to that point that we were just discussing?
Yeah, while you both were speaking, 2 points came to my mind. I can relate to, or I should say, we should try to inculcate this concept in our lives, basically to fulfill these two, rights of Allah, huquq al-ibad and huquq Allah. The second one, which you've already spoken about, considering people's feelings and, how and situations and things, so that they don't get offended. And the second part about huquq Allah, where one of the concept is being thankful to Allah. What I see is living in a first world country where, alhamdulillah, we have been blessed with everything, from food to, comfortable housing to a good vehicle, everything. What I see is our children are very impatient. Our children are, very complaining and whining and, basically lacking patience and being unthankful. So as parents, when we look at what's going on around the world, and try to tell them that when they're being impatient, to tell them what's happening around. For example, today I was really tired and I didn't get time to cook anything, and I was just resting while my little ones were also taking a nap. One of my older one, 15-year-old, he comes in, he's like, Mom, I'm very hungry, even though I had some leftover food there. But I was like, he can see that, Mom's resting. She had a busy day. And I was realizing, why can't our children see and try to see that we are humans at the end of the day, and, they can do something themselves, cook something, or, make a sandwich for themselves. It's a small thing, but it's simple as that. But, we need to tell them from a young age, so that they learn when they grow up.
It's recognizing and reading an environment, isn't it? At that point, one thing I want to make very clear, inshallah, because this is not a conversation about empathy. So it's not about feeling for others what you feel for yourself, as in from a selfish perspective, but it's more about actually reading an environment as the definitions talk about it. It's the eye of measurement, it's an observation, it's an estimation, it's the fine eye to detail. That's what we're talking about here, and developing this concept so that you can develop good communication skills and good relationships. So like you're saying, Sarat, you're maybe 15, 16-year-old or a young teenager walking into the room and just say, oh, I'm really hungry, but not even actually walking in thinking, oh, let me see what's happening in that room. Let me see what is taking place in that room. Most likely our Western youth haven't even taken in the fact that mom's lying down. Maybe she's not well, maybe she's tired, maybe something's up, but just coming in and sort of making an announcement as if the room is going to now deliver a piece of food to them, or that item of whatever they want. I'm hungry. Nice statement. And that is the case because at no point in society at large is it encouraged for us to think to that depth or to that level. The conversation isn't had in that manner. We may be Muslim, and although Islam encourages depth of thinking, depth of rationale, and how by developing these skills, we will naturally reduce confusion or anxiety, or will become better people of thought, with have depth and rationale connected to our decisions and so on. But that's only going to happen if we have actually taught them how to study a room, or before you speak, come in and have a look, and then engage your brain with what your eyes see, what your ears hear, and then appropriately address that situation. And as you're saying that example, it reminds me of the aspect of development. So if we are coming to this later, and some of our children are young adults or they're fully fledged grown up people, how as a family we can talk about recognizing these things and these techniques, and nurturing them within ourselves as a family collectively. So there is still a discussion. We haven't lost, the opportunity to develop this. And with those that are growing up, or are grown up or at home, if we've never divided chores, maybe it's time to divide those chores and responsibilities so we can work together, so they can understand what it means to be a collective body, or what it means to be cleaner or tidier or more organized, what it takes to put that meal on the table, what it takes to have clean dishes in the cupboard. So somebody, even if it's a dishwasher, somebody's actually gone to the effort of loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, or even if it's as small as cleaning your plate into the bin before you put it into the dishwasher, because the drainage gets blocked, and then somebody has to clean that out. So all these techniques are taught, or emptying the pockets out, making sure you've not left any tissues in them, and so on and so forth. If they are involved and they have to deal with that outcome, then naturally they will feel the need to be tidier or more organized, or have that depth of thinking of, oh my God, somebody else does this all the time, and how boring, how tedious, how exhausting, not from an empathetic point of view, but from a collective point of view. So naturally, some people are very good at judging people, judging body language, judging people's feelings, and having that emotional presence and awareness, as well as the physical presence, and others aren't. But it's something that can be taught. It is something that can be nurtured within our children and within ourselves. So it's the art of analysis and assessment, which is done quietly. It's quiet observation. And we could be in a situation, and that there's no it's about what conversation is taking place, and how is it taking place. So if in the West we have no expectations of our youth, there will be no plan, there'll be no depth, and there'll be no recognition of the fact that mom looks a bit ill, tired, or exhausted. What question should I ask, and how should I articulate myself in this manner? Unless there's anything that you guys want to add, just moving on to this, the parallels with Islam, subhanallah, Islam, 1400 years ago, when Muhammad Sallallahu came, and basically this is exactly what was discussed. We've been dipping into this from an Islamic perspective since the beginning of the show, but in Islam, one of you has already touched upon the fact that others are just as important as I am or you are, is a concept that we follow very, very strongly. And the fact that we should be considerate towards others, and we should like for others what we like for ourselves. And we should leave and stay away from what does not concern us. The art of recognizing that, should I ask this question? Is this an inappropriate question? Is somebody going to be offended or not? To recognize this comes with thinking and practice, and putting it into practice. So all of these elements are very, very important. Yeah. And when you were making those parallels back to Islam, did you have a thought in the preparation for today's show, or did you think, oh my God, I can see how it's connected back to Islam. I can see how in Islam we are all dawah carriers. What we say, what we do, how we speak, is really, really important. How we assess, the depth of our assessment and analysis, and is it more important now than ever before to think that this is what we should be producing in our youth, thinkers. And this is the beginning, the first stepping stone to start producing thinkers. Or did you think, you know what, it's okay, I'm not quite sure how to do this? Where are you on it? Go on, Ronnie.
Yeah. When I was reading the article and all that stuff, it did obviously. I realised that it's all about the article, and the whole concept was all about thinking. So you have to think about what you're doing, assessing. You know, all of this. This is all to do with thinkers, and especially at this time of the world that we're living at the moment, we need thinkers. We need our youth to wake up a bit and be aware around their surroundings and think about what's happening, why it's happening, for our future at the end of the day, you know, because we want our children, alhamdulillah, to be dawah carriers, responsible Muslims, responsible adults in the community. And we live in a obviously non-Muslim community, so they need to be part of that community as well, so we can interact with each other. So it does. I did think when I read through that this just comes back to Islam. Everything that it's in this article, it's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us, or what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us through his actions, through his words, and it just makes it a bit clear that we might be doing it, but we don't realize we're doing it. And we do need to revisit these concepts in our lives to make sure that we are, we are excelling in our skills as parents. And then we are then producing or developing children that are thinkers, or they are excelling in their skills for the betterment of the community, really, and society at large, and not just as individuals that we are cooped up in our own lives, selfish, you know, producing selfish and self-centered individuals. That's not what life is all about. You know, we're not individuals, we're living in a community, a society, and that's what we need to produce, I think, as inshallah.
Absolutely. Even if you looked at this whole aspect, I mean, one of the things I was thinking about was the Islamic principle of respecting somebody's privacy. And, you know, from an Islamic perspective, we talk about how even if somebody looks around before they tell you something, it's sufficient for you to know and understand from that body language, to be able to read that body language, that this is private and it's not to be shared with anybody else. This observation of this body language comes through having these skills of taking into consideration other people, and you know, learning skills of observation and assessment. I mean, there's a quite strong hadith on this. It's Tirmidhi Abu Dawud hadith, where if a person tells you something and looks around but doesn't say to you specifically, don't tell anyone, but just looks around before speaking, then that what they have told you has become a trust. It has become an amana upon the listener to keep it private and not disclose it. So it becomes an issue of halal and haram. Now, this concept is so deep, where in our society you have middle-aged people saying, oh, she didn't tell me it was a secret. She didn't tell me not to tell anyone. And, you know, families have broken up and chaos has happened and people have fallen out. Massive arguments flare up because somebody told you something but forgot to say, don't tell anyone. But you didn't understand, you didn't read the body language of that person. And here in this hadith, this is exactly what it's talking about, the observation of the fact that, oh, you know, she looked around, she lowered her voice. This observation, it should be there within you to recognize this, to assess this, and then to respect that, to respect the body language, to respect what you saw, what you heard, what you observed of that person's behavior, and keep it private and do not disclose it to anyone. That it becomes an issue of haram and halal. It's an amana. It's almost like that person giving you £10,000 and saying, please put it in a safe place. I'm not saying, oh, do give it back to me when I ask for it. It's the same thing, the same principle in that manner. And I find that fascinating that, subhanAllah, how could we have overlooked this? Or just the pedantics of wording, just let's change the wording. And we're talking about fine eye to detail. Nothing is going to have a bigger or a finer eye to detail than our deen in that manner. Masarat, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I was thinking of another Islamic concept of, arrogance. Like sometimes even younger and older, both the children, they try to seek negative attention. Like some demand quite a lot of negative attention, and we tend to give in sometimes. And we hear other children saying that, oh, come on, you're not the main character. Come on, it's not only you. Mom's got other children to deal with. So that way, they're trying to tell that, it's you're not the most important one. You have to look around and be considerate of others as well. And if we give in and feed that child's negative attention, it would lead to arrogance, I believe. He would always want to seek that attention from everyone and not pay heed to the surroundings around him.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And all of these things, the whole concept of speaking less and observing more, reading in between the lines before you respond. And the key thing here is that responding is essential. It's not about becoming afraid, anxiety kicking in and thinking, I can't handle this, but having the confidence to think, oh, hang on, I'm just going to look at my surroundings. I'm going to understand my surroundings. I'm going to hear my surroundings. I'm going to think about where I'm going. And then, with a clear mind, and then I'm going to go in there and see what happens. And then whatever happens, wherever I've learned, I will then continue on that process, and the confidence will continue to build. In that respect, just in the last few minutes before we end the show, understanding a room is so important from an Islamic perspective. That observation, there's many hadiths, let him who believes in Allah and the last day speak good or keep silent. This whole thing, it pushes the point that we should be involved in a majlis, in a collective gathering at all times. And we should be learning the art of speaking good. Or if we don't know what to say, it's okay to stay silent and think, you know what, oh gosh, I really didn't know what to say there. Come back and discuss it. Discuss it with your kids and your family and become better at it. In another hadith, cautions and careful consideration are from Allah, and hastiness is from shaitan. So important that, you be cautious and careful. You think before you speak. You're careful, you're considerate. You don't be hasty in your speech. Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 70, or you who believe, keep your duty to Allah and fear Him and speak always the right word. So important for us to do that. And also in one of the musnads where it is said, if you are going to do something, consider its consequences carefully. So be aware of the body language, the facial expressions and the tone of the voice. These are communication skills that we need to be teaching our youth. We need to be learning ourselves, and we should need to be implementing in society at a time now where it's paramount to speak up against injustice that may be taking place to us individually or collectively as a community or even globally. Please forgive us for any shortcomings or mistakes. Jazakallah khair to both of you for joining me today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.